And we are also going to be recording from this point forward. Okay. Does anybody need the closed captioning? Because I will keep that on if you do need it. Just raise your hand if you do. Otherwise, I will take it off.
I think we should leave it on.
You want to leave it on? Okay, no problem. Okay. So welcome everybody to Empower Your Fundraising this summer. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes talking about how you can use your summertime to really think through what your next year is going to look like. How can you engage with your donors? How are you going to move forward? And can you use this time wisely to really begin to think about your strategy or revise your strategy or look at your strategy, both, as a staff person and maybe with your board as well. So my name is Stephanie Pesses-Weil. I am the Chief Empowerment Officer of Empowered Nonprofits. I've actually been an owner of a consulting firm for the past 14 years. I first co-owned, I was the co-founder and principal of Giving Tree Associates for 12 years. And now for the last 2 years, I have been the Chief Empowerment Officer of Empowered Nonprofits. We are a firm of 6 consultants that work with small to medium-sized nonprofit organizations in the areas of fundraising and board and leadership development. We do a lot of strategic thinking surrounding annual campaign planning, board and leadership development, and also anything that falls under that, such as events, end of year campaigns, grant writing to an extent. So we are really all things to all organizations that when it falls under those 2 categories as far as board and leadership development goes. So here we go. We're going to jump into a little different type of icebreaker. I would love to just know, this is more fun. Do you have anything fun that's going on this summer? And what are your summer plans? I can tell you, I'll just start really quickly. I just got back from a fantastic trip to Costa Rica. It has been on my bucket list for the last 8 years, and to see a sloth in person was high on my bucket list. And I got to see 3 of them, including a mom and a baby, and it was amazing. Ryan, do you want to go next? What are your summer plans? Do you have anything fun going on?
Possibly looking at a cruise. Huge fan of cruises, but we haven't made a decision just yet. So, but one way or another, lots and lots of relaxation.
Great. That's amazing. Joanne, anything fun?
It's Joan, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. My dentist, who I've been going to for a century, still calls me Joanne, even when he's giving me the bill. So,
I don't even know why I called you Joanne.
It's okay.
Spelled Joan.
It's quite all right. I think we're all on the travel train. I mean, I think after like so long of not being able to do so many things, it's just an energy that's created that's like, I'll go anywhere, anytime with anybody.
Right, exactly.
So our biggest plans actually are not for the summer. They're beginning Labor Day weekend. We'll be in Scotland for 2 weeks.
Very nice. That's excellent. Monica?
I think just try to get outside as much as possible. I have 2 little ones, so we'll potentially go on the West Coast this year. I'll see how we can manage with 2 little ones, but a lot of road trips planned.
Amazing. Lonnie?
Same, and I'm gonna cross a new state off my bucket list. I'm going to Vermont. I've never been there before, so I'm excited for that.
Nice. I like that. Sylvia?
I will be staying in Chicago, but I actually have a lot of friends' birthdays during the summer, so I'll be doing a lot of birthday celebrations, and I've been going to like some graduation parties too. So that's about it.
That's fun. It's nice to be able to be social and celebrate those things again together. Abby?
I also have a little one. I have an 8-month-old. And we've been on the move a lot in the last month. And now we are home for the whole summer. And I couldn't be more excited to live in Park City because we love it here. And lots of hiking and things with my little one.
I love Park City. It's one of my favorite places to be
Yeah.
both in the summer and in the winter. I've been there both.
Exactly. They say you
Yeah.
come for the winter and stay for the summer because it's
Yeah. Oh, I love
incredible
it.
year round, except for mud
Totally.
season. So we get
Yeah.
out on mud season and then stick around.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. Okay, Tammy, what are you doing?
I am going on a houseboat with some friends in Lake Powell.
Oh, that's so different. I have not heard of that. That's great. Let us know how that goes. I'd be very curious.
I will let you know too. I've never done it either. So
That's a really popular Utah summer trip.
Oh, very nice. Okay, cool. Deborah, we just had Deborah join us. Deborah, if you don't mind just introducing yourself, tell us what organization you're from and what are your summer plans?
Hi, everyone. I'm Deborah Shube. I'm the Assistant VP of Leadership Development at JUF. And honestly, nothing exciting for the summer other than going to a wedding in California.
Excellent. And hi, Dolores. Welcome. We're so happy to have you. If you would like to share what organization you're from and what summer plans you have for this summer, that would be great. Oh, Dolores, I can't, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. I'm working with my son, logo under Hardeman Hardscape and just trying to get the business restarted again and trying to find out a little bit more about grant writing. So that's why I'm here. And then this summer, I will be spending time with both of my sons. They both live in Washington State. One is in Spokane and the other one is in Seattle. So I'll visit them as well as family in Chicago, which is where I'm from.
Very nice. Okay, excellent. Well, thank you everybody for sharing. We're so happy. We hope that some things that are on your summer plans are also going to be what we cover today. So here's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be reviewing what you could be doing in light of stewardship and cultivation, board and leadership, and also setting yourself up for success in Q3 and Q4 of this year. So those are three things that we are going to be looking at and helping you and giving you some ideas of what you might be considering in any of these topic areas to really move your organization forward, especially if you do have some downtime. So the first thing that we're going to look at together is cultivation and stewardship. Just to kind of define each of these words for you first before moving forward in some of the specifics is when we think of cultivation, we're thinking of how are we bringing somebody into the organization? How are we educating with them? How are we connecting with them? What are we doing to really introduce them to the organization and bringing them to the point of solicitation? Stewardship is on the back end of solicitation and somebody making a gift. It's how we're thanking that person, we're recognizing them, and we're engaging them post gift so that we're keeping them involved in the organization. And also it helps you set you up for another solicitation down the line. So once we solicit somebody, we want to make sure that we're engaging with them. So you're not one of those organizations that are just one time a year sending out a letter and saying, hey, it's that time of year. It's, December, please think of us. It's what are those points of contacts throughout the year that you are engaging? So we're talking about newsletters. We're talking about sending thank you notes with handwritten notes or a picture of somebody that they've impacted in your organization. It's talking about maybe providing free webinars on a topic that is related to your organization and might be interesting to them. And also thinking of in terms of, okay, what are the giving levels that people donate at? Can I think about, okay, for my $1,000 donors, we are going to send them a water bottle this summer with our logo on it. And for our $5,000 donors, we're going to invite them to have lunch with our executive director or somebody that's important to our mission. We want to cover these two topics because we think that the summer is a really, really important time for you to be connecting with potential new donors and also thinking about who are those people in our networks that are important to us that we want to engage and maintain those relationships with. So here are a few ideas that we think can be helpful. One is communication, right? We want to think about how can we engage with those that are on our team to come up with really exciting ideas as to how we can communicate with our donor base of support. So we're thinking maybe at this point, so we have Sylvia on our call today and Abby, who just came from the program side, and they are witnessing the program firsthand. Let's sit down with our program people and find out what are the stories of impact that are going on right now within our organization or over the past year that can really illustrate our mission, can really illustrate the exciting things that are going on. For Lonnie, maybe this is, the time where, kids are gone at camp. Lonnie can maybe connect with a few parents and talk to them about why it is important that their kids go to camp and what is the value add that they are receiving from attending camp. So we want to get creative about what those stories are. And we want to start maybe testing some of those stories with our donors. Maybe we're including them on social media, just a short blurb, including a picture of the person that you're impacting and what their story is, and see how many interactions that you might get from that. Maybe use that story in a summer blast and see how many people open up that blast. And if you have a newsletter, maybe incorporating that story into a newsletter and seeing how receptive people are to that. It's an opportunity to really start to test some of these stories that you might use later on down the line. We'll get to end of your campaign in a little bit, but that's a time when you're going to be doing a lot of storytelling. You can also think of your events. What kind of stories are you going to be telling at your events? So this gives you an opportunity to really collect those stories and begin to put some of those out there to see which ones resonate. Thanking your people. So really looking at your last 3 years of donors and figuring out how to segment them. So maybe you're going to say all donors at 5,000 and up. This is going to be the summer where I'm going to sit down and I'm going to take them to lunch or coffee. Maybe for all $500 donors, that's when you're going to, connect with them with a handwritten note and a picture of somebody that's been impacted. So let's think about how are we actually thanking our donors. And as I said, it could be segmented or you could just say all donors are going to receive the exact same message this summer. And we're going to talk about what's been happening in the organization. And here's what's to look forward to over the course of the next year. But really think about, how you can engage. And when you're meeting with those donors, ask them questions. Be good listeners. Find out about why your organization, what makes your organization tick. It's important to hear from them why they're connected. It will give you some insight. We all think when we go into a donor meeting that it's important to only talk about what's going on in the organization, but oftentimes it's great to hear why they're there so that we can then deepen that relationship and understand what their needs might be from the organization as well. So we want to we want to think about our donors in terms of what they're getting out of the organization and really beginning to ask questions and deepening that relationship. Maybe small get-togethers, not a large event, but small get-togethers. It's nice outside. Maybe you can invite a group of 20 donors to a restaurant and have appetizers and drinks. And you can just schmooze and get to know them better in a more informal atmosphere. One of my clients this year is actually having a get together this summer at a board meeting at a board member's house. The board member has invited all of the board members over, and they're going to be having dinner together. There's going to be a very, very short program of maybe 15 minutes to thank everybody on the board. And they're going to use it as a time to just connect in a social way and have fun, especially after 2 years of people really not connecting in person. It's a really easy way to just allow people to interact. And remember, your board members are also your donors. You need to look at them as they are also a source of revenue and donations for your organization. And we want to continue to invest in that time as well. So we're going to be communicating, thanking, and getting together with our donors if we can this summer. I see that we have a couple of things in the chat. So Joan has to leave the call. Bye, Joan. We'll send you the recording. Tammy, your question is, what is the recommended budget? Should the Director of Development of Advancement have to cultivate donors? Tammy, budgets are, very individual to the organization, and we can certainly have that conversation with you on the back end. If you'd like to stay on for a few minutes, I'd be happy to do that with you. But absolutely, your Director of Development Advancement should be playing a role in cultivating donors. It should really be on everybody's plate. Your board members should be part of that process. Your executive team should be part of that process. Your entire development team, and maybe even people on the program side of things should be part of that process. Right now, I'm working with an organization that is a private, is a school and also an adult service program for individuals with autism. And the individuals on the program side, specifically Allie, that's in charge of the Canopy program, which is the adult day services program, she's been very, very involved in going on tours and sharing the information firsthand on what happens at the site. And sharing, impact stories along the way. So if you are able to utilize your staff, if you're able to have your staff involved in that process, it is really an all hands on deck effort. The last thing I'll say to that as well is having people in pairs. Sometimes going to these meetings are intimidating and scary, and you may not have done them before. So bring somebody along with you that will complement you. If you don't have a skill set in one area, maybe you're not good at talking more about the program, but you're really comfortable about talking about your role as a board member, then bring along somebody from the programming side. Bring along somebody from the development side that can, you can both share that responsibility of that meeting together and play off of each other. So utilize the resources, both your informational resources and your human resources when we're talking about stewardship and cultivation. Any other questions? I'm going to take a break right here. You can certainly put your thoughts in the chat, but I also feel free to come off of mute and ask any other questions or share any other ideas that you may have, thought of doing this summer as well. I'll stop sharing my screen for a second. Anybody have any ideas? Anything that you're thinking? Tammy, yes?
I'm doing a lot of coffees, trying to just low key connect with people and make sure that we're doing that storytelling. But I'm having these like awkward meetings with people right now where they really actually enjoy spending time with me, and it seems like the relationships are going really well, but they don't really want to talk about the organization as much because they're like, oh yeah, it's going really well. We love the school. It's amazing. But let's talk about everything else under the sun. And I'm having a hard time balancing the cultivation relationship piece with, and remember, this is why I'm here, to develop, and get some donations out of this. But so I'm still tripping up around that. And then I also have been going out to lunches and dinners and coffees with people. And it's really awkward whether I'm splitting it with them. Some donors or people pay right away. I don't know when the cultivation is happening, when it is a friendly cultivation, or if it's more of an official business cultivation.
So I think that's great. Does anybody else here have that challenge? Raise your hand if you do. Does anybody else have that challenge?
Okay, well then forget it. It's just me. Let's
no,
move on.
Tammy, I think it's a great, honestly, I think it's a great question. People give to people at the end of the day, right? Lonnie gets that as well. People give to people at the end of the day, right? So if you're only spending 10 minutes on the organization and you're spending 50 minutes developing your relationship and having that conversation, you're learning about them. You're learning what they're interested in. You're learning what makes them, tick during the day, and what they find enjoyable. Like, you're learning really important information when you're having that informal conversation. And that could ultimately have impact on what you're asking them for down the line, right? Like, you may learn that they love STEM, right? Like, that's the way that their brain works. Like, they love engineering and they've always, found these things interesting. So maybe you can invite that person to come in and teach a class, and you are cultivating, you're stewarding, you're building that relationship with them. So I actually think that you're probably in a much better spot than just going and talking about the organization, because you're learning and they're learning about you. They're learning to trust you. They're connecting with you. They're feeling comfortable with you. And so I really do think that I think that what you're experiencing is actually ultimately where we want you to get.
And then the second part of that question was, how do you navigate who pays? Like, I feel like if I'm a donor and I just gave, $25,000 check, this just happened, and then we're out for lunch, I was expecting them to pay for that, because why would why am I paying for something they just paid for? It's awkward. So what is like the rules of engagement when it comes to lunches, coffees, I know it's like a nut and bolt question, but I'm asking because it's confusing to me.
So I think that you should be paying for that. I think it's a steward. If you're calling and you're saying, let's go to coffee or let's go to lunch, you're hosting them. You're saying, I would like to take you to do this. Now, if they say, I would never do that. I would never allow you to do that. But so if I say to you, no, I'm paying, then you should let me pay. But if you are calling and you are asking on behalf of the school to say, hey, I'd love to take you to lunch, you should be paying for that.
Okay. That's what
Do you mind if could I make a comment on,
sure,
actually on the first
Ryan.
part of Tammy's
Yes.
question, which I thought was actually really interesting. I happen to have a belief that every single interaction that we have with donors is cultivation. Even if it's personal, even if it's you bump into them at the supermarket and you're having a conversation, you don't have to talk about school. You don't have to talk about the work that your organization or your school is doing, but you're having an interaction with them. That makes in their eyes, you're now becoming a friend as opposed to this employee type of relationship. And I think use it to your advantage. Not everything has to be about what you're doing, and they'll gain from it, no question.
Thank you.
Tammy, I would assume a lot of the folks that you're talking to are probably pretty direct stakeholders with the school, right? Either parents or alumni themselves. Is that accurate?
We're a new school, so we're only 8 years old, 8 years young. And yeah, so I mean, think about before COVID, all of us haven't really been able to even cultivate the way we
Right.
normally would. So it's been 2.5 years. So they're not as direct as we would like. I have to really, I'm doing a lot of outreach to make those connections now.
Okay, interesting.
That makes sense to me. And I agree with everything that Stephanie and everyone else has commented on. I would just say that this hopefully makes your job easier in the future, right? Like you should have that CRM you're using. You have this hour-long conversation. You can jot down some notes, like their birthday is this, the kid's birthday is that, they are interested in XYZ, or they just went to this concert, so I know what kind of music they like. And then like you can use all those things later, like even just in casual conversation, like, oh, I saw so-and-so was coming to town for a concert. Like you mentioned, you liked them before, like, you know, any fun plans, and just like use those little tidbits along the way. Again, like Ryan said, to make that like friend connection as well. And that, again, hopefully just makes your job and your life like a little bit easier as you kind of move on with your relationship with each of those people.
Exactly. Thanks, everybody. We're going to move forward to the next section, which is board and leadership. And once again, continue to share and put your questions into the chat. We will get to all of them as best we can. Okay, so under board and leadership, I really want you to think about your board as one of the most essential things that you can utilize your time for this summer. Right now, I literally just got off a phone call from this morning with an organization. I'm doing we did a board survey a couple of weeks ago, and we're presenting that information to them on Monday. And then we're going to be moving into the fall into a strategic planning process. So we're utilizing the summer to really set up that process and begin to really think about how to engage the board going into the fall. So one of the most important things that we want you to think about is what one or two things are you going to be doing with your board this summer to be setting things up come the fall. So here's some ideas that we have for you. A board retreat or a social get together. You know, is there a day this summer that you can bring everybody together on a Sunday for a couple of hours and to maybe train them on a topic and or engage them on an issue that has been really keeps coming up at board meetings. And so you're going to get together and you're going to try and tackle that issue together this summer. Or maybe it's just a social get together, as we talked about, you know, a board member inviting all the other board members over and just really having wine and cheese or, you know, some sort of meal or dessert or whatever it is. So make sure that there's some sort of social gathering this summer if you are able to do that. Even if you're all virtual, maybe it could be virtual, that you can bring everybody together and you could do something fun on that call. There's lots of virtual fun types of activities that you can do. You know, there's escape rooms and there's, you know, there's lots of, if you go online, there's a million ideas that you can get of like organizations that will come to your board meeting and keep everybody having fun and engaging together. So even virtually, we can still have a good time together. Individual temperature checks. Let's make a meeting with each board member this summer and see how they're doing. Like, are you enjoying your summer? I mean, yeah, are you enjoying your summer? Are you enjoying your time on the board? What would you like to get more out of your board experience? Where else would you like to be involved? Like, let's get together with our board members and just see where they are with things and where they want to be going. In our newsletters, shouting out to individual board members, you know, maybe highlighting a board member or two and what they've been doing and how they've been engaging in your organization. We want our board members to feel appreciated and connected to the organization, so they'll continue to do for the organization and continue to feel connected. Maybe it's, you know, what is our campaign messaging? I love this. Remember the adage, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money. So that's all about that stewardship piece. When you're asking for advice about something, typically that leads to the person feeling more engaged and connected and heard. And that will really ultimately lead to them continuing to remake their donation or even increasing that donation. And, or if there's a special project, you can go to them for that because maybe they've provided advice on a specific topic. We also want you to think about looking at your annual campaign and how's it going? Do I need to look at any specific event or program that we've had going on throughout the course of the year? Does that still work for us? Do we need to adjust anything? And then also starting to plan for the next year and thinking about, okay, these things worked, these things didn't. Keep your notes, write it down somewhere, keep track of it, like debrief with your own self about what you really think is going well and what you think we could be doing, always be doing better, right? And then the last thing that we want you to think about is setting expectations for giving at the year end. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. So what do I mean from this? Your board should be involved in your end of year giving. End of year is typically a lot of, sending out letters, sending out e-blasts, using your social media and things like that. So that's all given, but can they be writing handwritten notes? Can they be providing you with 10 names of individuals that they can send letters to? Should they be forwarding on your e-blast to people in their network? Can they be following up with phone calls to people who normally give to your campaign and they haven't yet done so this year? So think about how you would like your board to be involved in your end of year campaign and start to create that list of items that you would like them to do, easy, achievable goals that you would like them to do and help you with to make your end of year campaign a success. This should not just be a staff-driven activity. It can be a much more engaging effort for your organization. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing right now. I see we have a couple of notes in the chat that might be relevant and see if you all have any other questions or any fun things to add. Okay, so for the newsletter, Lonnie said, for the newsletter, do you suggest sending to the full list or just to the board? I would send the newsletter to your whole organization and highlight some of the really exciting ways that your board members are supporting you or have been helpful to the organization and why they're engaged. You also might, if you want to just target your board members individually, that might mean, I have a board executive, not a board, I have an executive director of an organization who literally at the board meeting went around and said 2 or 3 sentences to each board member, like beautiful, meaningful sentences about why they were important to the organization, and they were personalized. So each person got recognition for something that they have done. It was a very beautiful, wonderful moment. It went quickly and everybody left feeling really good about their public recognition to their peers. So it could be done in many ways. But for the newsletter, we were thinking specifically, like send it out to your whole population and let them know, like you got these great board members and you recognize them and you see them, and that's how they treat their board members. That's how you're going to treat your board members. Any other questions? Okay. Feel free to keep adding. I'm going to share my screen again. Wait a minute. Hold on. It did not like that. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are going to now talk about setting ourselves up for success in Q3 and Q4. Okay, so Q3 and Q4 really began, you know, in August all the way through the end of the year. So how are we going to be engaging our donors and our board through the summer? And then how does that set us up for what the rest of our year looks like? So a couple of things. One is we want to be documenting everything that we have learned from our meetings. So anything in your cultivation meetings, your stewardship meetings, your coffees, your lunch, write that down in your CRM. Make sure that that's there so that people can read that. You know, the reality is we're not always going to be in a position forever. And some of us may move on as much as we think we're going to. But you want people that come after you to have that history. I'm sure you have all found in your jobs, like there's missing information, there's missing links. I wish I had known, right? So let's make sure that the information that you're gathering is being documented. And let's also make sure that we're sharing some of those opinions and information with our board, with the rest of our team. We don't have to use specific examples like Monica said X, Y, and Z. But in the aggregate, here's what I heard from my meetings this summer, and make sure that everybody else is hearing that too, so that we are making sure that everybody is on the same team. We also want to really be everything that we're hearing. We're really going to be thinking about what is the story that we're telling throughout the course of the year. Fundraising is all about storytelling. It's all about illustrating what does this organization do, not just by talking about your mission, but by illustrating it, right? I think that that's one of the things that COVID did for nonprofits that was really, really important, is it made us look at how we were telling our stories, because we couldn't get face-to-face with somebody. We couldn't get to an event and have those conversations in real time with people. We had to tell our stories via video, via Zoom. We had to make them even more compelling than we ever had to in the past. So we want to really continue that trend. We want to make sure that we're continuing to emphasize the storytelling. So make sure that you're really thinking through the stories that you're telling and test them. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but make sure that they're the right stories. Make sure that they work. We want to tease the campaign story without soliciting. So maybe tell those stories to a few people on your team. Maybe tell those stories to a few donors. See if that's the right story that resonates. And maybe certain stories are going to resonate with the alumni, and certain stories are going to resonate with the parents, and certain stories are going to resonate with the kids, right? So we might need to collect certain stories that are going to be targeted towards different members of our donor base of support. Segmentation is very, very important when we're talking about soliciting. So let's think about what types of stories that we have and what types of campaign planning that we have, and how can we target that specifically towards those populations during the course of our year. And also just remember this adage of asking for money, you're going to get your advice. Ask for advice, you're going to get your money, right? We want to be engaging in our with our donors and with our prospective donors to find out what really makes them engage with your organization. Any questions? I do see what CRM is everyone using at the moment? I adopted Little Green Light. We love Little Green Light. Is Tammy still here? Did she leave? Yeah, it looks like Tammy had to leave. We love Little Green Light. It's a great CRM. We also, Bloomerang is one that organizations are using that they really seem to like. Donor Perfect is kind of evolving with the times, and they're doing a much better job with their online services. Lonnie, it looks like you're using Salesforce. They all see, oh, Tammy's coming back in. Hi, Tammy. I just saw that you were using Little Green Light. We happen to really like Little Green Light. It's a great, very intuitive, user-friendly, affordable, CRM system. I just said Bloomerang is another one that people are using. Donor Perfect online is doing a much better job. Lonnie uses Salesforce. The Blackbaud bought a lot of the independent CRMs that were out there more recently. And so they're, I'm not liking them as much as I used to, because they've kind of become more corporate. But I tend to like more of the independent CRM systems that will evolve with the feedback, and we'll always try and do better. There's also a lot of targeted sites out, technology out there. Like we use OneCause for a lot of our events to engage with our event population. It's been really good for us. But there's nothing is perfect. Let me just say that we've definitely had some issues with it. But there's also, like, if you're planning on doing some, a specific event or program, sometimes utilizing some of those special software pieces that are out there are actually very helpful. So you just really need to know where to look and where to find those things. It's pretty easy if you do a search online, like what are the best event, nonprofit support systems, and it will give you you'll typically get like a list of the top 10 and what are great about those things. Definitely thinking through your technology this summer is a very important step for you to take. So my question to all of you is, based on what you've heard, we have about 6 minutes left to share. Based on what you've heard, what's one thing that you learned today that you really think that you're going to prioritize for yourself this summer? Ryan?
So without a doubt, board cultivation is incredibly important. We have a little bit of a challenge. Our board, okay, I'll say it bluntly, we're all friends here. Our board is absolutely dysfunctional, which is a challenge in and of itself. It means rebuilding it, looking at it from multiple different perspectives and trying to figure out, does it need to be blown up and started from scratch, or are there ways to salvage what we have? And unfortunately, it's just, again, it's a challenge that we have. And that's probably pretty much what I'm going to be spending my summer doing.
That's great. Excellent. Sylvia, did you learn anything today that you would like to incorporate into your summer planning?
Yeah, as I'm like fairly new to the role, I've always worked in nonprofits where I've known of a board. I've had seen it on outreach materials, but I have never really had to work so closely as maybe I will be doing in the future. So I think like just what you mentioned about making those connections, maybe involving them more in what we do, like our newsletter that we send out seasonally, maybe like asking them to write like an article for us, or like, just making those connections, because I really am not familiar of how to go about, making those relationships or cultivating that. So it was really helpful for me to hear about, about like the interactions with board members and things like that. So
great. Excellent. Monica, did you learn anything that you would like to take away from today?
I really liked how you were speaking about the board member highlights in our newsletter. And I think that's something that I'm going to work with our marketing team to talk about, because I think that's really, in this virtual remote world, I think that really gives that sense of engagement and involvement. I feel sometimes there's that sense of disconnect. And, if you can highlight and give that story, I think that really helps.
Excellent. Lonnie, anything else that you learned, or anything that you would like to take away from today?
I'm going to meet with as many donors as I can this summer, even if they can't come to camp. Hopefully other ways to engage people. I mean, there's
Right,
lots of
exactly.
ways to do it. So
Yeah.
and now that you can eat outdoors, that helps. So I should take advantage while I can.
Yeah, exactly. And Lonnie, for you, if you can't get them up to camp, that's okay. It might be that you want to coordinate, a day for that for you, instead of taking them up individually. It might be better for you to think, oh, this Sunday, I'm going to bring up as many donors as I can, even if it's like 3 or 4. But yeah, if they can't get up to camp, then, definitely think about, the lunch and coffee plan should be very sufficient. Okay, Tammy, what have you taken away from today?
I mean, this was great. Thank you so much for hosting. For me, my takeaway is I don't write down anything after I meet with people. I hold that to myself, and I always have done that because I find it to be really awkward when people are telling me all about their personal lives and their kids and their families and what's going on, and to like take that private conversation and document it. I usually only will write the things that are relevant, that because everybody's on this, and I don't know if I'm that comfortable with that. So I have to think about my own comfort around building relationships, and then also being transparent with them, because do they know that I'm taking all of their personal life details and sharing it out with this team of people? No. So I feel like I'm not sure how ethically, I don't know how ethical it is for me to do that. And I have to think about that. It doesn't feel like I'm working with people with integrity if I do that. So I have to figure that out.
So I don't think that it's information that's personal to them that you're writing down, but if you learn, so I take Alyssa out for lunch and I learn that her family has always really been interested in art and music, right? And that that's something that's really important to her and her family. I can take that information back. That's really important information, that kind of history.
Okay.
If she's sharing about a fight between, this member of the family and, and she's sharing, that's not information that you need to be sharing, but relevant information that might help in solicitations down the line.
They like sourdough bread. That's safe. That's
right.
Yeah,
Exactly. So yeah, no, don't write down every detail. Write down the details that are going to be pertinent and helpful to somebody else who might be picking up for you at some point.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, Dolores.
Yes, I'm new, so it's a little bit different for me. I'm trying to work on the personalization and getting to know people and finding and engaging with them more. And I think just being in the session today, even if you're dealing with your board members, knowing what everybody's needs are. Because if even though you're personalizing it, you still get a chance to meet that person, and you may have to hear their personal stories, but you also, by getting their information, you also can personalize and say, how can my organization, not how they can give me a donation, but how my organization can meet their needs, more so than what someone can give me. What can they get out of contributing to my organization? And then, just making sure that I know what they need, what their needs are, and then developing relationships, closer relationships on a personal and a business level, being able to, which will probably help me grow my business and be more successful at achieving my goal and meeting the needs of others. Does that make sense?
That does. That sounds excellent. Well, thank you, everybody. It's 11:01. We ran over 1 minute. I apologize. I always like to end a couple minutes ahead of time. But thank you so much for participating. We're thrilled that we had you today. If you have any questions about your summer planning, please reach out to us. We are here. Otherwise, have a wonderful summer.